Quick disclaimer, I read an article recently in the Shooting Sports USA magazine that served as inspiration for today's episode. If you'd like to read it, it's called Shoot Holes in Your Goals. The author presents these ideas in his own way, and this is just kind of my take on them. Check out the article if you get the chance, it's worthwhile and an interesting read. So today we're going to talk a little bit about goals and your mindset when it comes to shooting. I know we've kind of covered goal setting here and there before, but this time we're going to talk about it in just a little bit of a different way and maybe touch on some things that we haven't discussed yet. So to start it off, I'm going to make a statement that might surprise you, and that is that dreams are essentially useless. Everyone tells you to dream big and to follow your dreams, and that's fine. But until you make the transition from dream to process goals that will allow you to get there, having a dream is useless, aside from giving you a brief initial feeling of motivation. That's about it. Another term for dream would be outcome goal. Things that fall into these categories are like winning a gold medal at the Olympics, winning some particular match, or making a college team, or maybe making the national team. Yeah, it's good to have that big thing that you're working towards, but you can't really have it be your main focus. Why shouldn't you focus on it? Well, for two reasons. First, you can't control those things directly. But Ryan, if you practice really hard and try really hard the match you can, well, no, that's not how it works. Partly because trying hard isn't something that helps in shooting performance, as we've covered in previous episodes, but also because what happens when your competitor shows up and shoots just a little better than you did? That's completely out of your control. Also, you might have had a great performance, but then at that point you've allowed that positive thing to become completely overshadowed by the fact that you just essentially failed at reaching your dream because of something that was completely out of your control. So now you're upset, you've lost a bunch of motivation, and you see yourself as less of a competitor and maybe as somebody you can't win a match. All those things, of course, are disastrous for your self confidence and building that self image that we've talked about before, and they're probably going to have a negative impact on your performances in the future. So there's the first reason you shouldn't focus on those dreams or outcome goals too much, because they aren't things you are completely in control of. Alright, so here's the second reason. They can hold you back from performing well because of the pressure that they inherently put on you. Have you ever taken a friend to the range for the first time and they're like, alright, so shoot me a bullseye, or shoot me a 10, or break a target, or something to that effect? How easy is it for you to take that shot and make it a deep 10? Probably significantly more difficult than if you were just there practicing like normal by yourself. And why is that? Well, it's because you really want to show your friend that you know what you're doing, and as a result, you feel, a lot more pressure because you're focused on achieving that outcome. So, what do you think happens when instead of just being focused on wanting to show your non-shooter friend that you can shoot 110, that instead you're going to shoot off to make the Olympic team, or make the World Championship team, or maybe to win a medal at one of those matches? How well do you think you're going to do in that situation if you're focused on making your dream come true or whatever? I've told the story before on the show about my experience making the World Championship team a couple years ago. The quick recap is that I tied another competitor for the third and final spot on the team after 3 days of competition and 3 finals, and the two of us had to shoot an additional shoot-off final against each other for the last spot. Had I been focused on wanting to be on that team, I almost certainly would not have done well enough in that final to make it happen. So what do you do instead? Well, before I tell you what I recommend, I just want to make the point that different people have different philosophies on this whole topic, and that some say their focus on that outcome goal and just wanting it more than their competitors is what they use to help them shoot well in competition. And this works for some people. I'm just a little bit skeptical of that strategy. Give it a go if you'd like, and who knows, maybe it will work for you. This is just what's worked for me and what I think is probably going to work best for most people given the downsides of that philosophy that I just got through discussing. So what I recommend is, sure, set that outcome goal so you know what you're ultimately working towards. and why you're doing it. But then pretty much disregard it. Don't give it a lot of thought. What you need to focus on every day are the things that you do have 100% control over. And by things you have 100% control over, I do not mean shooting 10s. I do not mean making perfect wind corrections. I do not mean shooting a score of at least a certain value. None of those things you really have 100% control over. If those things fell into that category, then nobody would ever shoot a 9. But people do all the time, even though they don't want to. Even the best shooters in the world don't always shoot exclusively 10s. The best shotgun shooters don't always break every single target. Those aren't things that shooters have 100% control over, just like we don't have 100% control over whether we win a competition or make a team. Things that do fall into this category, however, are things like this: how we choose to react to good and poor shot outcomes. If you decide before you get to the match that you're not under any circumstance going to allow yourself to get mad or frustrated over a bad shot, don't you think that's going to give you a leg up on your competitors who didn't make that decision and let their emotions get the best of them? As soon as you start to get mad or upset over a bad shot or a bad string, you might as well just quit and leave the range without even finishing the match as far as I'm concerned, because you're no longer going to be able to perform at your best, and at that point, you really don't belong on the line with a gun in your hands. Your emotions on the line count as something that you have 100% control over, and something that will have a huge impact on your performance. Another thing you have 100% control over is your pre-match routine. Things like what time you're getting up, when you're going to eat breakfast, what you're going to eat for breakfast, how you're going to maintain a good level of blood sugar and energy throughout your match, what you're going to do when you get to the range, how much time you're going to spend before the match starts watching the win flags and developing your win strategy for that day, and so on. Those are all 100% controlled by you, and having planned out what you're going to do for all of them is going to help reduce the mental strain you're going to experience on match day, as well as just helping you feel more relaxed and in control. Two things that will help you perform well once you get up on the line and start actually shooting. The third thing you have total control over is following a predetermined shot routine. For example, everyone knows that a good, consistent follow-through will help you shoot better shots on average, but a lot of competitors disregard this step of their shot process. But you can make the decision that you're going to have good follow-through on every shot before the match starts. That's something totally within your control, and it's going to lead to better scores. So the moral of this whole story is that by focusing on the things that you have 100% control over, your result is going to be better individual shots, which when put all together is going to lead to better overall match performance. And that will ultimately lead to reaching and achieving those big outcome goals and those dreams. It's easy to let those things take center stage and be the things you're most concerned with, but resist that temptation. It'll lead to frustration and is ultimately going to hold you back from reaching your max performance capabilities. Focusing on the things that you do control, however, are going to enable you to reach your highest potential and should help you to continually see improvement. I know this was a little bit of a short episode today, but I thought this would be a really good topic to cover and hope you're all able to take something away from it. Best of luck with reaching those goals.